Hi, friends. This is Molly from Soul School Spiritual Guidance and Healing. I don't have any cards for you guys today, but I do have a message that I felt like super moved to share with the collective. I've been doing some reading and research to just kind of follow up on one of the cards that appeared at the end of my last reading. That reading is called A Collective Message to the US, and the card that I'm talking about is from the Galactic Heritage cards by Lisa Royal Holt, and it was the card that refers to Black League patterning. So I talked a little bit about what I knew at that time, what I could recall just from my readings. Um, of Lisa Royal Holt and the messages that she has channeled. By the way, I'm just going to go ahead and if like just geek out and gush about Lisa Royal Holt. If you are not familiar with her, she is a channel. She's an interdimensional channel. She has been for decades. She leads retreats, I believe, like around Sedona and in Japan, where she actually does like contact in a couple different ways. She coaches people in channeling, becoming channels, and exploring contact with our galactic family through that method. But she also hosts retreats that are focused on almost like a CE5 protocol. So she's really just super dynamic. Her work, she's just like absolutely prolific writer. She channels primarily, I believe it is a I can't remember which one is Sasha. I think Sasha might be the Pleiadian being who is essentially like a future incarnation of herself. It's fascinating, you guys. So, she's just not very well known. She has worked with Daryl Anka in the past. I know Bashar is kind of like the channel that is the most famous right now. But she and Lisa and Daryl go way, way back. She's just not as popular. And so I sing her praises whenever I can because I have found so much value in her works as far as creating for myself a mythology of our galactic history. All mythology is based in history. So I want to let you guys know when I read this, I'm sharing Lisa's message that Lisa is channeling from higher consciousnesses, right? So we're pretty far down the grapevine. These are not my words. But just to let you guys know, when I first came across this, just like this idea, I'm somebody who has studied human history and just been fascinated with human history for like as long as I can remember. So when I stumbled upon the concept of a galactic history, there was a lot of pushback, a lot of, ooh, I don't know if I'm really ready to buy this or not. So the sort of like interim philosophy that I had was, what if I were to adopt this as a mythology? Just say, you know what, it may not be true facts the way that we like to consider our history to be quote unquote true facts here on the planet Earth. I don't know. Like, it's just kind of difficult for me to reconcile some things that seem a little outrageous. So, but at the same time, they really resonate in my soul, almost like there was a part of me that was there. So I'm just saying this because if you find some resistance in hearing these messages for the first time, invite yourself to just see it as a mythology that maybe we can learn some lessons from here in our time on Earth. Does that sound good? Okay. All right. That's sort of my disclaimer. I do have in the background some solar plexus chakra music going on. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but I just felt I got like an intuitive nudge to include that in the energy of this recording because I feel like it's going to pull on our solar plexus, okay? The solar plexus is the seat of clairsentience. So in hearing this story, there might just be some feelings, like even some pent up energy that's kind of been there in the solar plexus for many lifetimes. that can find its release in your exploration of this history slash mythology regarding the Orion Wars. Many of our souls that are here on Earth at this time, we have a direct connection, a direct lineage back to the Orion Wars, and that's what I want to talk about today. This again, and connect it back to what was that card, the Black League patterning card, what was the message that was really trying to get to the collective at this time. All right, so the topic is victims, perpetrators, and resistance, and the way in which these three forces have defined human history and where on earth does that come from. Okay, so Lisa Royal Holt talks a lot about polarity in our current third density existence. Polarity is at its peak. Okay, the idea of separation from the one and the all and from one another is at its highest in our current incarnation, the third density vibration that we are evolving out of. Okay, we're evolving into a fourth density reality. And a lot of our galactic family members are assisting us in this transition, in part because of the role that they have played in the history of humans on Earth. Okay, so polarity is a big lesson that Lisa Royal Holt, it's just very central to her message. Polarity is essentially the opposite of balance. How do we overcome polarity? It is through the process of integration. So these are some terms that are going to come up as I go over what Lisa Royal Holt says about the Black League and Black League patterning in her book, The Prism of Lyra. This is from chapter 5, The Winds of Orion. And this is just kind of going to be a little story time. I'm not going to read the entire chapter to you, so I will just summarize what she talks about here and how it what is the message that we can take from this to help us in our current endeavor on the planet Earth. All right, so Prism of Lyra, chapter 5, The Winds of Orion. Basically she tells the story of the Orion Wars. She talks about this in a couple of her different books, but this is one where she really gets in and does the quote-unquote history of it. All right, so basically over the course of many generations, there evolves this tremendous conflict, this tremendous polarity within the Orion civilization. This polarity is marked by the negatively aligned forces or souls, right? That they prioritize service to self. Okay, the idea behind this is that if I am one with the all, then service to self is service to the all. Okay, now in its extreme, that becomes just a dominant, aggressor, control-seeking, power-seeking energy. Okay, so we can refer to that as the Orion Empire. And one of the metaphors that Lisa relies on a lot when she's describing it is like, imagine, like the Empire from Star Wars, because that's a very good representation of this negative service to self energy taken to an extreme. So some of the stuff, because like this negativity taken to its extreme plus supernatural powers, right? So because that's the thing, is like there's Jedi stuff going on in this civilization, and this is what I'm talking about when I talk about Jedi stuff. Okay, Well, one of the things that the Orion Empire is up to is the genetic manipulation of bloodlines, okay? So they would manipulate bloodlines so that one is more powerful than other beings, and then they could also manipulate particular bloodlines to make them much less powerful, just a lot weaker, okay? Astral abduction, astral body abduction and control, and then a lot of what we refer to on our planet as black magic. So the summoning of negative entities in order to achieve one's ends, okay? So this is kind of like the profile of the Orion Empire. They are the aggressors, okay? The opposite side of this conflict is the positive oriented. Those who believe that service to others equals service to all. And this, I'm gonna let you know that's the team that I'm on. It's just, again, like, I'm falling into the polarity in this discussion, but we'll take it step by step, okay? This ideology is that if I am one with the all, and in fact, there is one of the precepts of the law of one is that there is no other, only other self, right? So this ideology taken to its extreme very much becomes a victim ideology because people believe that you must relinquish the self in order to serve others, and that only in serving others can you serve the all. The problem with this is that it denies that the self is in fact a portion of the whole. So this is when we talk about an extreme polarity. I'm just going to share with you like the mental image that I'm getting from my guides to describe this. Imagine, feel free to close your eyes. Imagine a tightrope walker, okay? Imagine a tightrope walker, and what she's got in her hand is like one of those old school barbells where the weights on the end are round. I don't know if that's relevant, but that's the image that they're showing me. And imagine this tightrope walker having to cross the tightrope with one of those old school barbells, okay? So the longer that bar is, right, the more polarized those two weights are, the more impossible crossing that tightrope, maintaining your balance is going to be. But what they're showing me is if you were to bring those weights inward, closer to the body, less far apart, then that becomes an energy that you can balance as you're crossing the tightrope, okay? So that's just kind of the visual that I'm getting to express why the more polarized two poles are, the farther you're getting from balance, the farther you're getting from a sustainable energy, okay? So it is essentially the tension between the aggressor, with the Orion Empire, the tension between the aggressor and the victim, which is the quote unquote rebellion, grows. All right. The more tension there is, and this is almost just, I don't know how else to describe it, an energetic reality. This is just a reality of the universal laws of the universe, of the cosmos, of physics and metaphysics, is that the more unstable that energy becomes because the poles are so separated from one another, then what happens is that gives rise to a third energy. And that third energy is the, I'm so sorry because I said this before. The third energy is the rebellion. The third energy is the resistance, okay? So you have the aggressor and you have the victim. This is an untenable energy because there's no balance in it, right? So out of that tension arises the resistance, okay? Spoiler alert. This is the pattern that gets lived out on the planet Earth, okay? And let me tell you why. So basically the resistance forms, right? And as they grow, they, how do I say this? Okay, so just like imagine, I'll go ahead and go to Star Wars. Okay, so you've got a base like on Endor, and you've got a base on Hoth, right? Like every time the rebellion like gathers and begins to organize, their energy is so powerful that it radiates. So the Orion Empire is using the Force, right? They're almost quote unquote supernatural abilities to identify, to locate and like detect and destroy these Black League bases. The Black League is the name of the rebellion that forms at this time. So over centuries, there's this ebb and flow where the rebellion grows, the empire detects them, and they are destroyed. And then it's just like episodes 4, 5, and 6, okay, of the Star Wars franchise. So as this goes on, here are some of the developments that take place in the Black League. They learn how to direct their energy so that rather than it radiating out into the universe, it becomes magnetic. Okay. So like, does anybody else, I've done a lot of past life regression. I've dug deep, deep, deep and gone far, far back. Does anybody else feel like they have a memory of like, I don't know how to say it, like a past life memory that I have is of like being in meditation and working for a resistance through the meditation. Okay, which is crazy because in my last reading, I said we're not going to change the world by meditating on a mountaintop, but that's just because we're in the third density right now. There are other timelines in which that's 100% a thing that you can do. Change the world by meditating like in a mountaintop or some like nebula somewhere. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Let me get back to what's happening with the Black League, okay? By the way, the reason I bring this up, I think intuitively, this is a message that's coming through. And the reason why I have this solar plexus stuff going on in the background is that it's probably it's very likely that me just telling this story may very well trigger within you past life memories of this happening. Okay. And I don't know why, but it tugs on our solar plexus. That's just the message I'm getting at this time. Okay. So the Black League becomes like, they become the Jedi. Basically, they learn how to direct energy completely differently. They master dimensional consciousness travel. But the oppression and the aggression from the Orion Empire is so strong that what happens is over time, the Black League kind of loses sight of what it is that they're ultimately fighting for. They're so focused on what they're fighting against that they begin to take on the methods of the enemy. In other words, they begin to perform negatively oriented acts, service to self type acts, acts of control, of domination, acts that the resistance was ultimately created to fight against. That is the lesson that really wants that whatever guides are delivering, and I do feel like these are Orion guides, okay, that what they really want to impress to us at the time is it's almost like they're highlighting this part of the story and they're saying this, and we'll get back to it because there's more. This is the part that they really want to get the message out about at this time. Make sure that that in fighting evil, you do not become the evil you become. You are fighting. Wait, say that again. Make sure that in fighting evil, you do not become the evil that you are fighting. Okay, so what happens is somebody comes along with this message. Somebody comes along in the Orion civilization who is working with the Black League, and they present this philosophy. In reading it, I feel like it's almost like a Christ figure, okay? But the message of this figure is that integration, right? That's what we're trying to get away from, is this extreme polarity. We need to fight that through integration, okay? Integration cannot be achieved through negativity, okay? So the message here, and this is a direct quote from page 34 of The Prism of Lyra by Lisa Royal Holt. The idea of peace and freedom must be so loved that one is willing to live it in one's soul despite outside manifestations. That's a bar right there. The idea of peace and freedom must be so loved that one is willing to live it in one's soul despite all of the outside manifestations. Now they're showing me, okay, if you saw the reading, the collective message to the US, I posted it on June 19th. If you did not see it, go find it now, because they're showing me, basically, sometimes this happens after I give a reading, like they'll show me pictures of cards that I drew in that reading and give me like follow-up messages. Okay. Where was I at? Okay. So the outside manifestations, okay, because there's a lot, you look around, you're not seeing peace and freedom in the world. And that's hard to find these days, especially if you're looking on mainstream media, okay? But you look around the world, you don't see peace and freedom, you're seeing the opposite of that. So what my guides just showed me is that Seven of Staves card from the Ship of Fools Tarot that came up in my reading, the collective message to the US, because that's the image of somebody who feels so bombarded by external energies that they're super overwhelmed. Okay. So when you are feeling that way, oh, thank you. Okay. So they just played me a clip of myself saying in that reading, the moment contains love. That's the message. That's the first precept of the law of one, is the moment contains love. Okay. That's the same message. Okay. No matter how much you feel like you are surrounded by the opposite of peace and freedom, the idea of peace and freedom must be so loved that one is willing to live it in one's soul despite those outside manifestations. That's powerful. That's the nugget of wisdom that they want to give to us at this time. Okay, now let me wrap up this story by connecting the dots. All right, after this new philosophy, after this new realization of how the Black League is going to be able to overcome polarity and overcome the aggressor, is to create a new world. They're like, well, let's start fresh. Let's start a new civilization in a new world. And there are two things that we want to make sure that these beings, that this new civilization possesses. One is free will, and the other is a desire for societal preservation. In other words, a desire to not let things get that unbalanced, not let things get so entirely polarized, because that's what's happening on this planet right now. We look around and we see this intense polarization. There is dark stuff happening out there. But there is some beautiful, beautiful healing going on as well. All right. So, regardless of what is entering your field of attention, you've got to keep it locked in on that love for peace and freedom. Okay. Do not become the evil that we're fighting against. All right. I'm getting off task again. All right. Listen. So they're like, look, let's create a new civilization, and give them the safeguards that we think will help them to master this lesson. Those safeguards are free will and a desire for societal preservation. Okay, this is on page 35 of The Prism of Lyra. This new world was Earth. This new world was the planet Earth and our human civilization. So, remember when I talk about how moving from third density to fourth density, we're kind of conquering our own individual karma so that we can step into the collective karma. This is a big part. This is the collective karma of our planet. This is the lesson that we are working out as a collective civilization on this planet. It is the polarity between aggressor and victim and the pattern of resistance rising up from the tension between those two. So here's the intellectual Molly download that I got, because I used to teach world thought at a university, world history, philosophy, politics, all that good stuff, right? As soon as I got to this, okay, basically the Orion drama that's playing out on our planet is the negative desire to control on one side, the positively oriented self-sacrifice on the other side. And then the polarity of this dynamic is what leads to resistance, okay? So when I got to that part of the book, that's when I get this little picture in my mind of the chart I used to draw on the whiteboard when I was teaching about Hegelian dialectic, okay? So for those of you who are curious or that rings a bell, the idea is that through political engineering, you end up with a thesis. This is the way that society should be run. And then you get an antithesis. So an opposing energy, political energy that says, no, that's not working for us. This is the way that society should be run. And often those two are so polarized that the only way to make any change is to synthesize them. So thesis, antithesis, synthesis is basically Hegel's explanation for how human history happens. So I'm very much connecting that to this idea of victim, perpetrator, and resistance. All right. So y'all know that's what's going on this planet right now. Okay. We are very much in the midst of that. And I feel like part of the purpose of bringing forth this message is not only to highlight the, peace and freedom must be so loved ideology, but also maybe even to light a spark in some of your galactic memories, because I feel like I'm speaking to a collective whose souls were there in one way or another. Okay. So here we are. We've got that experience, and now we're on the planet Earth. Let's put that experience and wisdom to use. Okay. I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here today. And I'll see you real soon. Okay. Bye-bye.